Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video and then I'll go back and talk about things going on in the video to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think were done right and are done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Lieutenant Ryan Flood, Public Information Officer at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. This critical incident community briefing will provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that took place at 85A Montague Road in Greenville on June 23, 2021. The information that we are providing will enable you to have a better understanding of what we know occurred at this time in the investigation. The Greenville County Sheriff's Office conducts comprehensive investigations relating to officer-involved shootings, and these investigations may require our team of investigators to conduct multiple interviews, review video and audio recordings, and possibly analyze forensic evidence. Our office will not draw any conclusions about whether the deputy's actions were consistent with our policies and in accordance with the law until the investigation has been thoroughly completed. It is important to note that during the course of the investigation, our understanding and determination of the incident might change in the event new information is brought forth and new evidence is discovered. A brief disclaimer: the content you are about to see and hear may be disturbing to some viewers. When deputies are put in a position that requires them to use physical force to effect an arrest or defend themselves against an attack, the actions can be graphic and difficult to watch. Additionally, some of the language heard in this video might be viewed as strong and offensive. Viewer discretion is advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers. On June 23rd, just before 5:00 p.m., deputies from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office responded to assist the United States Marshals Task Force, who were attempting to locate and apprehend a suspect at 85A Montague Road. The suspect was identified as 40-year-old Earl Fitzgerald Hunter, who was wanted out of Spartanburg County, South Carolina, for attempted murder, armed robbery, and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. When deputies arrived on scene, they identified themselves and their purpose for being there to an occupant inside and were given consent to enter. Upon entry, deputies observed Earl Hunter in the back kitchen area and began giving him verbal commands. As the deputies moved in to place Hunter in custody, he pulled away and produced a pistol. Fearing for their safety, two of the deputies discharged their firearms to stop the threat. Hunter was struck and ultimately pronounced deceased on scene. No other officers or other civilians were injured. In a moment, you will see two angles of the incident from two different body-worn cameras from Greenville County deputies. It is important to note that since a law enforcement task force was on scene, not all law enforcement personnel you will see are employed by our agency, and thus we will not be responsible for providing their respective footage in the event they were wearing body-worn cameras. Additionally, non-GCSO law enforcement faces, along with the faces of any bystanders, will be blurred out. During some initial portions of the video, you may notice an obstructive field of view which is caused by a deputy's inadvertent arm coming into the view of the camera as he is attempting to position his firearm. Body-worn cameras are used by all officers assigned to field duties. They are typically worn at chest level and give a general perspective of what was within the camera's field of view.
Hey, how you doing, man? Anybody? Hey, man. Earl.
They're saying he's not here. Top 38 if you're trying to raise me here. Low volume.
Hands! Get your hand out of your pocket! Oh, man. Out of your fucking pocket! Now! Get your... Shit! Damn, we just pulled the gun. Stay back! Get back!
38, 41 Alpha.
That's okay, but...
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
You're good?
Are you okay? Have you been hit or anything? Yeah, we're gonna shoot.
He pulled the gun out of his pocket? Yeah.
41 Alpha from Top 38, 85 Montague Road area now.
He pulled a gun.
Yeah.
Hey, they're coming out the front door.
38, 31 Bravo.
Check her and make sure she's okay.
538, 1031 Bravo. Suspect down, 71, 10.
Hey, lock the house down, please.
Yes.
Who's got body cams? Your camera?
My camera's on.
I don't. Okay. Man. All right. Well, we're not moving anything right now.
Nope.
Getting anything?
That gun is just under the corner.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get her out here. Come on, man.
538, car 9 on, people 10-4.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You want to get
You want
hands
to get hands on?
on?
You put a gun on it? Y'all start saying, is this still a 41 ounce?
You guys good?
No, we're good on the 41A. We got enough on the scene. We got enough to hold it for now.
You see a gun in his, like...
It's right below his hand.
Don't come to me. I'll come to you. Call him out. Call him out. $90.
538, if you're trying to raise me here, low volume.
Hands! Get your hand out of your pocket! Out of your fucking pocket! Now! Get that! Shit!
Damn, you just pulled a gun.
Stay back! Get back! Get back! That's okay.
My grandbaby back.
I got it. Just get him and get out.
Are you okay? Have you been hit or anything?
Yeah, we're good. During the next several minutes, deputies secured the scene and waited for EMS personnel to arrive at their location, at which time they pronounced Hunter deceased. Agents from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division were requested to investigate, and the suspect's loaded 9mm high-point pistol was located under his hand and subsequently collected from the scene. As of the release of this video, it is believed that 2 deputies with our agency discharged their firearms. No other officers or the suspect fired their weapons.
Hello, I'm Sheriff Hobart Lewis. Consistent with any officer-involved shooting, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, along with the 13th Circuit Solicitor's Office, will continue investigating the facts to determine if the deputy's actions comply with state law. In an internal and separate investigation, our agency's Office of Professional Standards investigated the incident to determine if the deputy's actions were consistent with strict guidelines and standards set forth in the Sheriff's Office use of force policy. As of the release of this video, the deputies have been cleared after the investigation concluded that their actions to use deadly force were justified under our policy. If you would like further information on our use of force policy, please visit our website at gcso.org and click on the General Orders link found under the Resource tab. Please remember that our goal in providing this information is to give viewers a better understanding of what occurred during the incident, an incident that we believe the community has a vested interest in learning about. Our thoughts and prayers remain with everyone involved. Thank you for taking the time to view this critical instant community briefing.
All right. Let's go back to the beginning.
As 40-year-old Earl Fitzgerald Hunter, who was wanted out of Spartanburg County, South Carolina, for attempted murder, armed robbery, and possession of a weapon during a violent crime.
So this guy was wanted from back in December of 2020 for shooting his girlfriend multiple times and stealing her car and her phone. I've tried to do a search on this guy to see if there is any other criminal background on him. Because of this incident, typing in his name, all you see is news articles from this incident. And trying to find anything else is a little bit, just a little bit difficult. Their county jail website doesn't allow you to search previous arrests or anything like that. It only shows current people. So just because I couldn't find anything doesn't mean that nothing is there. And I would suspect that this person has had run-ins with law enforcement before. I would say that he is most likely no stranger to the criminal justice system. So that's who we're dealing with right now. Or they're dealing with, rather. Go to the beginning. All right. So they roll up on this house. And in the second view, the second video, you'll hear the officer saying something to the effect of, come on, get them out, or take them out, or bring them out, something like that. And what I believe he's referring to is getting the occupants inside the house to come outside. And that's one thing I would have preferred to have seen, is once this person, as soon as this camera view changes, up here, this person making contact, what I would have preferred seeing is they go ahead and get that person to exit the house and get them out. This is it's a duplex, so here's one living unit over here and another living unit over there. I believe that the residence that they were at was this guy's family. I think he was staying with mom. In some of the other news articles that I found on this, one of them, the family, the news article talked about the family was demanding to see the body camera footage to have a better understanding of what happened. And it had quoted his mom, and she was saying something to the effect that the police came in and all she heard was them yelling to keep his hand out of his pocket or something like that, and then hearing shots. And when I roll the footage forward a little bit more, you'll see that there's a person sitting on that bed when they first come in, but they're all blurred out, and they look like a really small person. And in that other news article I saw where mom was being quoted, there's a picture of mom, and she was really small, so that makes me think that mom was sitting on the bed. Now, that's pretty common with criminals. If they're not, staying with mom, then they're staying with their grandma or their auntie. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is such a common occurrence. Why you don't hear them, they were always with their granddad or stuff like that. So it's like they're always with their mom or their grandma or their auntie. For whatever reason, that's how most of these criminals run. I initially thought it probably was his grandma, based off how small the person was, but looks like it's going to end up being his mom. But anyway, don't know who this other person is that's immediately inside the house, but I do think that it would have been in their best interest to, as soon as they make contact, have that person come outside and have them secured by some additional units out here, because you don't know what these people have on them. So, they could have gotten into a physical fight with this guy, and then boom, mom come up behind them with a frying pan or something and start wailing on them, where that other younger looking person could have produced a weapon of some sort and come and got them. So I would have preferred to see him get him out of the house. And interestingly enough, even the family in one of the articles that I read had mentioned that they think the police should have cleared the home and got everybody out. So from the door, you can look straight back, and that goes to the kitchen area. So for this whole time, this whole interaction, this hunter guy is in the back of the house, in the kitchen area.
They're saying he's not here.
So the radio traffic, they're saying he's not here. So the people inside are, uh, they're lying, and they are aiding and abetting a criminal.
558 if you're trying to raise me here, low volume.
So you can see, I mean, it's a straight shot from the front door to the kitchen. So whenever that first officer made contact at that door opened, it was a straight visual shot to this back room area. And so the suspect, as we know, is behind this wall right here, and presumably there the whole time. I don't see it being very conceivable that this first person in was at this door talking to this person and didn't notice their suspect walk from this corner through this open area and into the kitchen. So he was most likely, as soon as the door opened, in this kitchen area. Now, it says that he was hiding, and as you could see, there wasn't really much hiding places. Not much of a hiding place inside that kitchen. I think it's possible that he could have been trying to possibly hide in between the washer and the dryer, but not really sure about that. I wish that some more details would have been included in the news release. But these guys, they move in, and this first guy in the kind of burgundy shirt that's right in front of him, you can't see right now, he decides to post up here at this corner, looking into this bedroom. Second guy, he floods forward into the kitchen area, followed by this guy right here. Immediately upon going in there, they make contact with him.
Get your hand out of your pocket!
He's in a standing position, so, I don't know, like, what the heck he was doing back there for that whole time when they first knocked on the door and got the door open. He had to have heard the conversation taking place at that front door. And so what he was doing back there is really anyone's guess. He could have been peeking out the window, maybe, but when you first see at the very beginning of the video, when they're outside, there is someone at the back of the house. So he was maybe gauging if he could have went out that door and made a run for it, but obviously, someone's there, so he can't. So he's probably like a fish in a barrel at this point. He just don't know what to do. It's really hard to say what was going through his mind.
Oh, man! Shit!
We'll hit that one more time.
Get your hand out of your pocket! Hands! Get your hand out of your pocket! Oh, man! Out of your fucking pocket! Get your... Man! Hands! Get your hand out of your pocket! Oh, man! Out of your fucking pocket! Get your... Shit! Damn, we just pulled the gun. Stay back! Get back!
41.
So it's not clear who shoots. There's 3 people in this room. 2 have pistols, 1 have rifle. It doesn't say who fired. The news articles, they say deputies. Now, we've got sheriff deputies and we have deputy marshals. So it's a little unclear which kind of deputy they're referring to. The person with the rifle from this camera perspective, they're obviously the sheriff's deputy, and the person that you see right here in front of you, they're the sheriff's deputy as well. This person up here who's blurred out is a deputy marshal. With his arm being in the way of the camera, I don't know if the rifle guy fired or not, or if it was both of these guys right here with their pistols. So we're not really sure on who fires. Now, as far as the pistols go, let me see if I can get it to pause. Alright, so a little bit better view. This guy has rifle magazines on his vest, but he doesn't have a rifle. I personally would prefer that, everyone going into this house be armed with a rifle. They're going after a guy who has tried to kill someone, and is dangerous. So they should be going in with rifles. Two of them that we know of have rifles, but these two right here do not. They just decide to go with pistols. It has always been a rant of mine, pistols versus rifles, and how rifles are more effective at stopping the fight than pistols are.
Yeah, we're good.
Feel good?
Are you okay? Have you been hit or anything?
Now that beeping noise you hear, that is the emergency tone for the portable radios that they're talking on. In some places, it's called the emergency button or the man down button. In some places, it's given the unofficial name of the oh shit button. It's a little orange button on the radio, and when you press it, it'll make that kind of noise. The dispatchers also have the ability to make that kind of tone go over the radio from the dispatch terminal, and that tone is basically an attention getter. You hear that tone, that means you stop what you're doing, you pay attention to the radio, and you sure as shit don't be getting on the radio talking about unimportant shit. You keep that radio clear for whoever just pressed that oh shit button. And, you hear it, you start paying attention to what's going on, hear, locations being given out, and you try to get to a location real quick. What you hear a few seconds later after this is the smoke detector going off. And the smoke detector, it doesn't know the difference between gun smoke and the smoke from fire coming from the house. It just, that gun smoke got in there in that ionization chamber and disrupted the current and made the smoke detector go off. So, and that's pretty common, and I don't think that is something that a lot of people think about when it comes to shooting guns inside structures. Of course, everyone is so used to shooting guns outside. Obviously, outside there are no smoke detectors, but when you think about home defense, and getting yourself prepared for the possibility of a home invasion occurring and having to defend yourself, if you go through that mental process of visualizing things and thinking it out, one thing that you need to think about is the fact that your smoke detector is probably going to go off, depending on where you're at. Obviously, they're in the kitchen, so of course there would be a smoke detector right there in that kitchen. Each house is different as far as where smoke detectors are at. Sometimes there are some in bedrooms. Other times they're not in all bedrooms, but rather like hallways and stuff like that. So it really depends on your house, but the smoke from the gun being discharged is I don't think it's going to go from this room all the way out into the living room and cause that smoke detector to go off. It's really the smoke detector that's going to be closest to you that is most likely going to be going off. It's not like it's, going to set them all off in the house like a fire would, because you just don't have that continuous flow of smoke like you would in a house fire. Just, whatever rounds that were fired produced enough smoke to go up to the most immediate smoke detector and make it go off. And the duration of how long it goes off, it's probably not going to be that long. It's going to dissipate after a while. That little ionization chamber will go back to normal once that gunpowder smoke clears out of it. But that's just something to think about, is smoke detectors going off after a shooting.
He pulled the gun out of his pocket?
Yeah.
41 Alpha from 3885 Montague Road area now.
He pulled a gun?
Yeah.
Hey, they're coming out.
538, 31 Bravo.
Check her and make sure she's okay.
So he said check her and make sure she's okay. Keep in mind that this wall right here, let's go back to the beginning where they're actually making entry into the house. Make it up a little bit more. All right. There's a person sitting right there. And that's the person I think is his mom. So right behind this wall, he's right there. Probably literally like just right there in the middle of the wall on the other side.
Hands! Hands! Get your hand out of your pocket!
Oh, man.
Out of your fucking pocket! Now! Get your... Shit!
So it could have been very easy for one of their rounds to go astray and go through that wall and hit that woman sitting on the bed. I have no idea what caliber these pistols are. Let's just say, that's 9mm. A 9mm can go through several walls. This drywall right here, a panel on this side and a panel on the other, it can go through several sheets of drywall. And I don't know if this website exists anymore. There was a website called The Box of Truth. And it was just some gun dudes who took sheets of drywall and put them all together just to see how many sheets that different rounds would go through. And just did a search, and it's still up. It's called the boxotruth.com. And click on original chapters, and it should be in there, which it's taking a little second for it to load. Sands of Truth, Box of Truth, Rags of Truth, magazines versus rifle, and then they also do other stuff like shooting armor and things like that. But they have done some pretty cool stuff on that website showing, how many rounds, or I'm sorry, not how many rounds, but how many sheets of drywall different rounds will make it through. And 9mm will go through several. So one of these rounds could have very, very, very easily missed him and gone through and hit his own mom. And so that is another reason why, I think the house, they should have been clearing it as quick as possible, getting those people to come outside. That first person definitely was, already up at the door. They would have been the most easiest to get up and out of the house because they're right there at that door. The mom, on the other hand, if it's the mom sitting on the bed, she may have some mobility issues, a little bit
Yeah.
harder to, just get up and go
538.
at moment's notice.
538, 1031, Bravo, suspect down, 71, 10.
Who's got? Hey, lock.
Suspect down, 71, 10.
So we noticed that the guy, he does have a taser, and the family, of course, everyone always talks about, why did they use a taser? Why wasn't this blah 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 blah? This happened so quick. It was so dynamic that the Mr. Hunter here, he did not afford them the opportunity to go to a less lethal option. The police are always having to react to what someone does. They are reacting to someone else's actions. And so he didn't give them the time to go to a less lethal option. Would having used a taser made a difference in this? Who knows? Sometimes tasers are not effective. They were extremely close to him, so I would suspect that if he had been able to get his taser out and fire it at that close distance, they would not have achieved NMI, or neuromuscular incapacitation, because the probes would have been too close together. Now, of course, to remedy that, you just do a follow-up drive stun with the gun itself and find your third point of contact, complete the circuit. But being so close and this guy actively resisting and fighting and going for his gun, I still believe that this would have ended in discharging of firearms. So, taser in this scenario, I don't think would have made a big difference at all. Not one bit.
Make sure she's okay.
538, 1031, Bravo, suspect down, 71, 10.
Hey, lock the house down, please. Yes. Who's got?
So, automatically, they know that they need to preserve the crime scene. So they don't want a bunch of random people coming in and screwing up the crime scene, because this has to be investigated. A homicide has occurred, and it needs to be investigated and be presented to a grand jury, so the grand jury can decide whether or not it was a justified homicide. This guy, however, he doesn't even have his body camera on him. So that's a fail on his part, in my opinion. When body cameras first come out, a lot of people were like, ugh. They were a little opposed to them, a little bit on the fence about them. I can tell you that I prefer body cameras for the most part. There's been times that I can think about before body cameras ever came about, that I wished I would have had a body camera to be able to prove that a person making allegations was lying. And that's certainly what a body camera can help do. It can help back you up. So as long as you're solid and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, that camera is there for your benefit. It's going to back you up. And like I said, there's been a couple times where I wish I would have had a camera, just to be able to prove that someone was a freaking liar and they were lying out their ass. I think they're great, and I think they do well in protecting people. However, with that being said, due to the limitations, like boom, case in point right here, the way the camera is mounted, a lot of times the camera gets covered up, and so when they first make entry from this camera view, because his hand's so close to his chest, and he's got the rifle and stuff right here, you don't see a whole lot when they make entry into this room. And based off this footage, we're not even sure who shot who shot. So cameras are great. However, at the same time, they're not perfect. And quality of camera, lighting conditions, placement of the camera. You cannot get quote unquote the whole picture, so to speak, from a camera, and that's where people's perceptions can enter that gray area. Like, well, I don't know, I don't know what happened. This could have happened, and it happens. But if you got a body camera, wear the damn thing and have it on to cover your ass. And I mean, unless you're one of these people who's doing shady shit that you're not supposed to be doing, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about when it comes to wearing a body camera. Now, I'm not saying that this guy's not wearing it because he's in the shady shit. I think just his complacency, he just didn't put it on for whatever reason. And based off how he's dressed and everything, he might not be the type of person who works the road all the time. He's probably maybe more of a detective kind of person. And so if he's in that role, chances are he's probably not always rocking that body camera like the patrol guys are. So that's a more plausible explanation why he doesn't have that camera. But he should have had his damn camera on covering his ass.
Body cam. Is your camera on?
My camera's on.
I don't. Okay. Man.
That reaction right there. So it's obvious that he didn't want this to happen. He didn't want to have to use deadly physical force or for anything to happen. They just want to take this guy into custody, get him in jail. And that is over 90% of law enforcement. There's these people out there who, and these people are, they're mostly criminals, or they're sympathizers of criminals, and they're mostly uneducated, and they just have a general disdain or dislike for the police, and they will come up with the craziest shit and insinuate and say that the police like to go around just shooting people, that they enjoy it. That's not the case at all. There may be some out there who want to do the thing, but the vast majority of them, no, that's not the case. They don't want to do the damn thing. In fact, there's a shit ton of cops out there who the only reason they carry guns is because it's a condition of their employment. If it wasn't for their employer telling them, hey, you got to carry a gun, they wouldn't carry the damn thing. And it's just asinine to hear these stupid ass people say stupid shit like, oh, the cops like shooting people, blah blah blah. No, they fucking don't. And you will see these kind of expressions and these kind of noises a lot in these videos, because this is something that these officers, they don't want to do it. They don't want to have to shoot someone. Nobody wants to go to work and shoot a person. Now, like I said, there may be a couple out there who do, but the overwhelming majority of our peace officers here in the U.S., they don't look forward to going to work and fucking shooting people.
Well, we're not moving anything right now.
Nope.
That gun is just under the corner.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, what I think they should have done was move in and do one of two things. Either A, remove the gun from his immediate reach and secure it, or B, cuff him up. And you see in a lot of videos, after a person's been shot, they go ahead and cuff them up. And I think that is a good practice to have, because there have been times where a person has been shot, and they got back up and got back in the fight. Even people who've been shot in the head. So I think that it is a good practice after a shooting to go ahead and cuff a person. That way, if they were just knocked unconscious, then you eliminate that possibility of them becoming conscious again and getting back in the fight. So I would have liked to have seen, like I said, either A, they remove the gun from him, or B, go ahead and cuff him up. They didn't do any of that. Now, going back to talking about cameras. So we can't see with a whole lot of detail what kind of injuries this guy may have. We obviously know he's been shot, but this camera footage doesn't really show very clearly where he may have been shot at. They could have, or not could have, they, with their eyes, can see a whole lot better where he's been shot at than what we can see through this camera. So he could have been, he could have had a couple gunshot wounds to the head that we just can't see from the camera view. And they felt pretty confident that this dude's not getting back up. And that would be the reason why they didn't take the gun away from him or go ahead and cuff him.
He pulled the gun out of his pocket.
Yeah.
41 Alpha from 3885 Montague Road area now.
He pulled a gun.
Yeah.
Hey, they're coming out.
31 Bravo.
So this guy, and as I noted earlier, bullets can go through walls very easily. They go through multiple walls very easily. This guy, hiding out in his mom's house and doing this, put his family in grave risk, grave harm. If one of them had missed and that round went through that wall, that person on the other side could have been shot. They could have caught a round in the head very easily. And so this guy, very, very selfish in doing what he did, putting his family at risk like that. And that is a common thing when it comes to people like that, criminals. They're like leeches, man. They will suck people dry. They won't hold jobs. They'll stay with their mom. They'll stay with their grandma. Stay with their auntie, whoever. They'll suck money out of them. Borrowing money here and there. Eating the food in the house. I mean, they're freaking overgrown kids. But I think a leech is probably a better term to describe them. And I hate it. Like I hate how people like this victimize others, and even their own family. And that's a common, like I said, that is a common thing when you see people in the criminal justice system. They're leeches, man. They suck the life out of their family, suck all their money from them, and they put them at risk. And this guy, he put his family at risk when he acted the way he did. I have no care in the world for him. Moving on to the second video.
Call him out. Call him out.
So immediately, this officer, he's saying, pull him out. Pull him out. And as I said earlier, I think that would have been the best thing for them to do right from the get-go is as soon as you make contact with that person at that door, get them out the house. And as you're moving in, start pulling the other people out of the house, getting them hell out of there. You don't know whose side they're on. They're obviously on the side of the dude who shot his girlfriend, tried to kill her. So you would have to assume that they have the potential to do bad things to you to keep their loved one from going to jail. And so they're all rolling past this woman. Who knows what she has in her waistband? Who knows what's sitting right here behind the door? There could be a shotgun behind the door. These people need to be pulled out and secured.
Hands! Get your hand out of your pocket! Out of your fucking pocket! Shit!
And even from here, when he enters in, the second camera, you still can't tell for sure who shoots.
Stay back! Get back!
So body cameras are great, but at the same time, I mean, they're not perfect. Not much else to say about this video, as far as tactics or anything like that. Them using deadly physical force on him, of course, they were well within their legal rights to do that. This guy pulled a gun on them, and he has used a gun on someone before, and so he's being resisting and not doing what they want him to do, and he pulls a gun out. So yes, they have absolutely every right to use deadly physical force against him. So they haven't violated his rights in any way whatsoever. Back up a little bit more. Let's go to somewhere in the kitchen. And we'll see a freeze frame here.
Yeah, we're good.
You good?
Are you okay? Have you been hit or anything? Yeah, we're gonna shoot. He pulled the gun out.
All right. So this is one thing I noticed earlier in the video, and I want to talk about it. His choice in a weapon light. Now, each agency across the U.S. is different when it comes to their policies and things like that. So you may have one agency that they issue everything to the individual officer, and the only thing that individual officer needs to bring to work is their socks and underwear. And everything else is given to them. In some places, the officers have to buy their own stuff. Maybe a little bit in this one area. And then in some areas, the officers practically have to buy every damn thing that they go to work with. And seeing this kind of rifle light or this weapon light kind of makes me think that this is an agency where this officer or deputy kind of has to buy some of his own gear. And it's possible that the agency, someone in charge, decided, hey, we can buy, twice as much as these for the same price of, for this other brand or whatever. This appears to be an in-force weapon light. And in-force weapon lights do not have the greatest reputation. There's a freaking reason why you don't see the real professionals who use rifles all the time using these things, like special operations types. There's a reason you don't see them using these weapon lights, and it's because they're not that great. You'll see those people using lights like Surefires. There's a reason why they use, lights like that. because they work, they last, they withstand abuse. And there's only two reasons why this is on this rifle. A, someone within that agency wanted to save a buck and bought these, or it's really up to the individual officer to buy some of their own gear. And he could have been given this rifle for work, but it didn't come with anything on it. And then he decided that, he's going to buy this light because it is cheaper. And contrary to what some people think, police don't make a whole lot of money. In some places, the starting wages are, I mean, they suck. You could probably make more money working at frickin' Walmart than you could being a police officer in some areas of this country. And so that happens for those officers who are forced to buy their own stuff. They buy inferior things because they don't have a big checkbook. Or it's possible that this officer furnished everything, bought his own rifle and everything, and same thing. He already spent so much money on the rifle. Go with a cheaper light. And when it comes to life-saving equipment, things that are going to keep you alive, keep your teammates alive, you don't want cheap shit. You want stuff that is going to withstand abuse, is going to work all the time, every time. And weapon lights, in my opinion, should be Surefire, Streamlight, Mod Light, and Cloud Defense. Those are weapon lights that have been put through the ringer, so to speak. They've been abused, they've been used by professionals, and they just have a really good reputation of working. Lights like this Enforce, they crap the bed a lot. Not something I'm really going to want to trust my life to. And so I've always believed in the philosophy of buy once, cry once. And when it comes to life-saving equipment, you need to spend the money on it. If it means having to, in this profession, go take out a little loan at a bank, then by all means, you know what, that's something you're going to have to do if you're wanting to stay in that profession and do it, and that agency just can't buy you stuff. And you'd be surprised about how many agencies there are here in the U.S. that don't provide everything to their officers and expect the officers to buy the stuff on their own. A buddy of mine, he started somewhere, and they didn't even have a fucking bulletproof vest to give him. He had to borrow a bulletproof vest from a mutual friend of ours who owns a security company. So, and that happens in a lot of places. There's a lot of poor agencies out there, and there are officers who have to supply their own stuff, and when they're doing that with low starting wages, they're kind of, stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to buying life-saving equipment or buying food for your family and putting on the table or keeping the lights turned on. So if you got to take out a little loan, by all means, do that. Get your shit squared away so that when it comes time to have to use it, it's going to work and it's going to save your ass, save your life. If you have to stop eating out so much to save some money, then you know what? Sacrifice it. Sacrifice eating out and save that money and buy the good gear that you need to get. Enough ranting on that. Look at my list here. Not much else to talk about. The marshals. So going back to what this guy is wanted for course, it's wanting to not show much.
Earl Fitzgerald Hunter in possession of a weapon during.
This guy was only wanted on like local, like state charges. Um, there was nothing that indicated that he was wanted for federal stuff. And some people, for some reason, they think when the U.S. Marshals get involved, that means, that this person has federal charges or something like that. And that's not the case. The U.S. Marshals will actually assist local law enforcement with apprehending fugitives who don't have federal charges. All they have is state charges. And in the year 2020, the U.S. Marshals arrested 53,080 persons on local state charges, compared to only arresting 24,389 people on federal charges. So the U.S. Marshals actually help out some of these smaller agencies when it comes to finding violent offenders, because a lot of agencies, they're small. They don't have a lot of the staffing and resources to be able to put forth long-term investigations and hunting people down, so to speak. And so that's where the U.S. Marshals come into play, and they actually help quite a few agencies across the U.S. with tracking down people who don't even have federal charges. Not much else to say about this. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.